for us to solve this question, we are supposed to differentiate the curve, the equation of the curve, which is y equals to 2x cubed minus 3x squared minus 12x plus 12. Differentiating means we need to find the dy dx of that function. Dy dx of the function will be 6x squared minus 6x minus 12. How did you arrive to this? In general, if we have the function y equals to ax to the power of n, finding dy dx of this function will be n multiplied by a x to the power of n minus 1. The power of n reduces by 1. So that is the general rule for differentiating equations or functions. And in this case, because this involves different elements, we are going to differentiate each element separately. So in this case, for the first element, the value of n is 3. That's why we are multiplying 3 by 2 to arrive to 6. And the power of x reduces by 1, that becomes 2. Same applies to this one also. We multiply this one by 2, 3 by 2, we get 6. And the power of x reduces by 1. Also, for the 12, this is the same as 1. Any number raised to the power of 0 is always 1. And that's why we are writing only 12 itself. For us to get any equation, we must have a point, a gradient, and we choose another general point to get the equation itself. So we need to get the gradient. The first thing we need to get is the gradient. And the second thing is the point, which we already have in the equation. This is the point, which is in form of xy. So how do we get the gradient? We can get gradient from the gradient function. So we need to rewrite the gradient function, which is 6x squared minus 6x minus 12. But the value of x is 1. From this point, the value of x is 1. So what we are going to do is we substitute x with 1. That means that we are going to have 6 into bracket 1 squared minus 6 into bracket 1 minus 12. That clearly gives us 6 minus 12, which is negative 12. That is the gradient of this function. Let's call it m. Now, the gradient of the function is the same as the gradient of the tangent. Now, what is a tangent? When you draw a curve like this, a tangent is a line that touches the curve at a certain point. So this is called a tangent. So the gradient of the function or the curve is negative 12, which is the same as the gradient of the tangent. And now this helps us to arrive to the question, what is a normal? A normal is a line that's perpendicular to the tangent. So this is called a normal. The concept of perpendicular lines states that if we multiply their gradient, assuming that the gradient of the normal is m2 and the gradient of the tangent is m1, if we multiply m1 times m2, this gives us negative 1. Since we have the gradient of the tangent, which is negative 12, using this formula, we can get the gradient of the normal. So this means that negative 12 multiplied by m2, which is the gradient of the normal, equals to negative 1. Dividing both sides by negative 12, we get the gradient of the normal as positive 1 over 12. So with the gradient of the normal and the point 1, negative 1, we can get the equation of the normal by choosing another general point, xy. Using this formula, y minus y1 equals to m into bracket x minus x1, we can arrive to the equation of the normal. So, in this case, what is x1 and what is y1? x1 is 1 and y1 is negative 1. So, using that, we can substitute m with this, y1 with negative 1, and y and x with 1. So we'll have y minus y1, which is negative 1, is equal to the gradient, which is 1 over 12 into bracket x minus x1, which is 1. So this gives us y plus 1 is equivalent to, opening this bracket, we get 1 over 12x minus 1 over 12. Now, we take 1 to the other side of the equation. This gives us 1 over 12x minus 1 over 12. If you take positive 1 to the other side of the equation, we have negative 1. Now, finding the LCM of 12 and 1, we get 12. 12 divided by 12 is 1 times negative 1. That gives us negative 1. 12 divided by 1 is 12 times 1. That gives us also 12. So finally, y equals to 1 over 12x minus 13 over 12. This equation is in the form of y equals to mx plus c.